As was said on Sunday, by way of a summation of the question that's been asked, what's the difference between a charm, an amulet, and a talisman? And perhaps it can be said that a charm is that which we wear to attract good things to ourselves, to charm people and life. An amulet is that which we wear to protect ourselves and ward off bad things, evil. And the talisman is like an icon, like the Christian cross, or the Om, or a relic of the Buddha that we wear, or a gift from, or picture of our chosen ideal that represents for us and connects us to that power that lies deep and constantly within ourselves. But diving deeper, but first to play with the mind a little. There's that Zen story of the abbot, the Zen abbot, who served in his monastery for many, many years, teaching the sutras, guiding the meditations. But suddenly, one day, the old abbot was found to be missing. He was not seen nor heard of again. Those seekers who were in the monastery soon made their allegiance to one who replaced him. But there was one student who was determined to find the old master. And so he searched and searched, and finally found the old abbot living as a hermit beggar under a bridge. He approached the master and he begged him, "Please, please, will you take me as your student, as I was before?" And the old master said, "I will accept you as my student if you can do as I do for the next 3 days. But I predict that you will fail." The first day, the master, the old abbot in his beggar's garb, took this young seeker to the marketplace, where they went from stall to stall, begging for a piece of rotten fruit, a wilted vegetable, a decaying piece of bread. The young seeker was ashamed, humbled. He tried to hide his face with his robes. The next night, the abbot master took the seeker to the cemetery ground, where they went to the newly dug graves to take the food that had been left to send the soul on its way or placate the gods. The young man could hardly put it to his lips. The third night, the master abbot said to the young man, "We do not have to go begging tonight because one of our friends has died. His body lies over there and he left some bread behind, and once we've buried him, we can eat what he's left behind. They buried the body, but the young man could not even bring the bread of the dead man to his lips. Bowing to the old master abbot, he said, "Forgive me, master, but I cannot do what you do. I must take my leave." And the old master said, "It is as I predicted, because you still have pride. You still have superstition that there are gods to be placated, and you still have sensibilities." And then there's a story that has many versions. It's the story of a man who was dissatisfied with his life, but he knew that all would be revealed if only he could find his fate. So he determined and decided that he would go out and seek his fate, his destiny. Well, the very first night when he was on the road, he happened to be at an inn, where he saw at an adjoining table one of those beings who wears the patchwork robes and are called dervishes. So, after all the other patrons had left the table, our seeker, who was called Akbar, went over to the dervish and said, "Honorable sir, I am seeking my fate, and I would ask your advice as to how I should go about this, knowing that life is a mirror, and my fate is to be found in its reflection." "Ah," said the dervish, "the mirror. The mirror is that which reveals our perceptions, and perceptions are constantly changing, so life then becomes a hall of mirrors for us. Better that you seek elsewhere." Well, Akbar thought to himself, this was some kind of wisdom, and the dervish went on, as dervishes do, expounding such knowledge as to where this can be sought. But by this time Akbar had switched off. But he thought to himself that perhaps a companion along the way would not be such a bad idea. So he asked the dervish, may he follow him along his path? And the dervish readily accepted and acknowledged his company. The very next day, as they were going down the road, they stopped under a huge tree. And the dervish said, "Do you hear that sound?" And Akbar said, "Yes." And the dervish said, "Listen, put your ear to the tree." And so Akbar did. And he said, "I hear a humming sound." "Oh," said the dervish, "I wonder whether this could be a beehive that is trapped behind this broken branch. Perhaps if we break off the branch, we will discover the honey. But Akbar said, we have no time for this kind of diversion. We're on our quest to find my fate, my destiny. Oh, said the dervish, well, let it be. And so they left. But later in the afternoon, when they were stopping to rest, a rider came by with 2 great jars on either side of his donkey, and he was beaming and happy, and Akbar and the dervish asked, well, you're very happy, what do you have in your jars? And the man said, well, I was passing this great tree and I heard a humming sound and I broke off a dead branch and there was honey. And so I'm going to market. I will no longer be poor. Akbar thought to himself for a moment, well, I should have done that. Perhaps I could have reaped that honey. But then it went out of his mind. And on they went, the dervish and Akbar. Excuse me. And not far further along, they came to a river. And as they were crossing the bridge that spanned that river, they saw a fish jumping out of the water, jumping. And Akbar said to the dervish, I wonder what that fish is doing. It looks to be in trouble. And the dervish said, put your 2 hands together, clasp the fingers, and listen. And to Akbar's great surprise, when he did so, he could understand what the fish was saying. It was saying, help, help me, I have something stuck in my throat. If you can give me some herbs that grow by the side of the river, I can disgorge this impediment to my breathing. But Akbar said, we have no time for this. Let it be, let it be. And the dervish looked at him with askance, but said not a word, and they went on their way. The very next morning, after they'd rested, a man came along, riding his horse and wailing with happiness. They asked him, what was it? He said, well, I was crossing the bridge and I heard this fish speak. It was begging for help for some herbs, so I gave it some herbs and it coughed up this huge diamond. How do you know it's a diamond? Said Akbar. I'm a jeweler, said the rider. Akbar thought to himself, how is it that someone who's already rich can be richer? But then he put it out of his mind, and they went on. Some distance along, as they were laying down to rest, the dervish said to Akbar, what is that sound, that rumble, that murmuring? Put your ear to the ground. Listen to what you hear. And when Akbar put his ear to the ground, he heard the sound of ants that had been trapped under a great rock, talking amongst themselves, saying, if only we could move this stone, we would be able to extend our nest and our family would grow. When Akbar related this to the dervish, he said, why is it that you do not remove that stone? Akbar again said, my quest is to find my fate, my Kismet, not to be removing rocks for ants. And so they went on. That evening, a group of villagers from a village nearby came along whooping for joy. And they were asked, why are you so happy? And they responded that one of their friends had laid down to rest and heard the ants speaking and removed the rock under which was a cache of gold. He had shared that gold with his neighbors, and everyone was happy and joyful. Not too far further along the road, the Dervish stopped Akbar in his tracks and said 3 times, foolish man, you have been faced with the possibility of knowing your destiny, knowing your fate, and 3 times you have not heeded the implications of what I have said or not said, nor, foolish man, do you know who I am. But Akbar got angry, and he said to the Dervish, look at you, a beggar in patchwork cloaks. Why did you not avail yourself of those fortunes that came along? And the Dervish said, I have no need for such fortunes, because my task is other than this. You see, I am your fate. And with that, the Dervish disappeared from Akbar's sight. And like so many before him, and so many who are to come, he missed the possibility, the opportunity that fate, his talisman, one might say, had presented to him. What's the deep meaning of this story relative to our inquiries as to what it is that a talisman is? Representative, connection to the power, knowing deep within us. How would you interpret this story relative to this? Because the question arises, what is this power? What is this knowing? I was with Divine Mother for all of those years. She was my chosen ideal. She was my talisman. For some years, when anything was presented to me to make decisions, I would say, I wonder what Divine Mother would do about this. I always referred to her, knowing deep inside, even though it was with my heart and my head that I was asking. I was really asking my inner self. But then, one day, when she said to me, "You don't need me any more," and I was left bereft. Then and only then was it possible to be able to merge with that she represented.